It's time for the Financial Crisis Talk Center with Ken Gross and David Einstandig from Thav Gross.
Credit card debt is number one. I view it as financial cancer.
40% of your gross income is going to just pay the debt service. You got no chance of getting out.
I would give up my credit score to get rid of debt.
Here's your host, Ken Gross.
Welcome to the Financial Crisis Talk Center. Today's segment, we're going to talk about the word of the day is insanity, and we're going to focus on foreclosure and big changes that have occurred in Michigan when it comes to helping homeowners facing foreclosure. And the news is not good. With me this morning, again, David Einstandig. Good morning, David.
Good morning,
Glad
Ken.
You're here and focused. Brian Small.
Good morning, Ken. Wonderful to be here this morning.
Eric Berlin's joining us this morning from Thav Gross. Nice to see you, Eric.
Good morning.
All right, so are you guys aware of what happened?
No, tell me.
In July, we need a little history lesson. Or would you like to do your quote of the day first? First, let me set the stage on the history, then we'll do the quote of the day, because that's part of our show now.
See, first he asks, what do you want to do? And he says, tell
Then
me,
he
here's
does
what we're
it
going to
anyway.
do.
It's
So-
part of my mantra.
This is
I
like,
like to do
Rain,
that.
this is like not Rain Man. What was it?
We're
what
not
was
talking
that
about
movie?
Rain Man.
What was
You
that
did
movie?
Rain Man.
Groundhog's Day.
Fine. We did your things on the last segment. We're not going to do that.
Groundhog's
No
Day.
Groundhog. I like that movie. July 9th, 2009. The Michigan Legislature passed what was called the 3205 legislation, which was help for homeowners. We've talked about it on the show for 4 years. It was the best legislation that Michigan passed to help people facing foreclosure. It received national recognition. It was copied in several different states. It set up a program that before a lender could foreclose by advertisement, the normal way to foreclose a home, they had to first send you a letter by certified mail and give you an opportunity to ask for a mediation. Originally, you only had 14 days to ask for the mediation. Then it got amended so that you had 30 days. We've spent countless hours telling people, watch for that letter. You have to request the mediation, because we found that it worked. We literally obtained modifications for hundreds of people over the last 4 years using this statute.
Because the statute permitted you to get through the red tape and speak to a human being with authority at the lender, which is probably one of the most difficult things to accomplish in the world.
And once you did that, when you requested that modification, the meeting and the process, you submitted your financial information. You needed help to do it right because you were still dealing with the lenders and the crisis and the lost documents and everything else. But you had a mechanism, like when we were involved, you'd have our law firm, you'd have the lender's law firm, Trott and Trott, Orl and Schneiderman, the ones facilitating the process and complying with the law. So you had to get your chance at a modification before the lender could foreclose.
Well, and
it worked great.
And what you had there with those lawyers on the other side was somebody that actually understood the law and could actually guide their client versus having somebody who's getting paid minimum wage plugging data into a computer.
Absolutely, because the Michigan statute only applied to Michigan. When you were dealing with these lenders, these national lenders, they weren't familiar with Michigan law, but when they hired local counsel, they had to comply with Michigan law, otherwise they couldn't foreclose. And naturally, that they wanted to foreclose if they could, so it was an excellent law.
Because it created a mutual benefit. It was good for our clients, good for the borrowers, and it was good for the banks.
It was good for the banks. It was good for the economy. It was good for Michigan.
It worked.
They only passed it in small increments, a year, then 6-month extension, 6-month extension. Last June, when it came time to extend, they did not extend it the normal way. They said, we'll extend it to January 9th, but on January 9th it expires, and we're going to give you a different law instead.
And you know what's interesting behind this, when they were thinking about changing the law, there was a movement via the Republicans in the House and the state Senate to reduce the
the redemption
right from 6 months to 3 months, basically saying throw them out and let's rehabilitate the economy by letting the foreclosures occur.
Which was total insanity. And because of that movement, you're making a very good point, Brian. Because of that movement, the Democrats had to battle back to keep the 6 months, and in the process, they lost 3205 effective January 9th, and instead you have 3206.
Why so much opposition to it? Who's fighting it?
Well, the lenders are fighting it because
insanity.
The lenders fight it on a certain level because for every person that they want, every homeowner that they want to foreclose on, there's a significant cost to the lender to send out the notices, to be involved in the mediation. There's significant delay, which costs them. And there's the possibility of waste to the home, which allegedly was taken care of in the last.
Before you get to the why, let's put out here what the new law is, and then we'll come back to the whys a little bit, because I want to get to the new law, which went into effect yesterday. This is what it says: if your lender, who's servicing the mortgage at the time, wants to foreclose, if the lender is one of the big five that were subject to the National Mortgage Settlement, Citi, Chase, Wells Fargo, GMAC Alley, who am I missing? Bank of America. Those five lenders were the only ones subject to the National Mortgage Settlement. Before they can foreclose, they must send you a letter and offer you 30 days to respond and request a quote-unquote meeting. Notice how I've said nothing else.
Because the statute says nothing
Because
else.
that's it. Once they send you the letter and they offer you the meeting, if you have the meeting, they can then foreclose under the Michigan statute.
Can they do it by telephone, by computer? Does it have to be in person?
Doesn't say in the statute. But the one thing is true. It's a meaningless law from this standpoint. Under the National Mortgage Settlement, those five lenders have to comply with the National Mortgage Settlement in order to foreclose, and they had to offer you the meeting anyway. Here's the big question. Number one, if your mortgage was with Chase and they've transferred it to a different servicer, Soteris or somebody, it doesn't apply. The statute says if it's a new servicer is not a successor.
What's MERS in this process?
MERS doesn't come into play. Because MERS isn't a lender and MERS isn't a servicer, so it wouldn't apply. But let's say you got your mortgage is with Comerica. Eric, your mortgage is with Fifth Third. Who's your mortgage with?
I'll say Bank of America.
Say you
Bank of America again?
Yours applies. I'm with HSBC.
We could all live on the same block.
So here's the question: we're both behind in our mortgage.
Block?
We're both facing foreclosure. If your lender is the servicer is Bank of America, you get a letter as a Michigan resident, and the Michigan statute says you get some help. Me, because I happen to have HSBC, the Michigan legislature thinks I don't get any help. That's the most insane, stupid, pathetic law ever enacted in the history of the state of Michigan, and somebody should pay for it. We're going to take a break. You can see I'm getting a little bit excited, and then I'll calm down and we'll be back after the break.
I couldn't get out of the car. I couldn't run or exercise. I couldn't work.
Dr. Lewis Radin believes that pain shouldn't have to wait. His Spine Specialist of Michigan is a comprehensive center dedicated to helping you manage pain now. Expect the latest techniques and personalized care. Why suffer another minute?
He's the best. I tell people that he's the one that saved my life.
Make your appointment with Dr. Radin. Call 248-792-9496.
Are you struggling to pay your mortgage? Afraid of foreclosure and the financial mess it can cause? Time is not on your side. Call Alan Stalter, the short sale specialist. For years, Alan has been helping distressed homeowners navigate through the short sale process. His experience will get you out of your home without the credit score damage that follows foreclosure. If you want a fresh start, you need to call Alan Stalter, the short sale specialist, 248-854-3829 or MetroDetroitShortSale.com.
No one ever thinks that a serious injury can happen to them, but it can, and it does. And it can happen to you. And when it does, you need a fighter in that courtroom for you. Call me, Ben Johnson. Automobile accident, police misconduct, medical malpractice, product liability. You know what you're up against, how hard it is to get answers. When all you want is justice, call me, Ben Johnson. Whatever your legal crisis, I will fight for you. Call me today.
If your house is underwater, please listen to this important message.
The rules have finally changed. We're seeing some great loan modifications with reduced principal, and short sales are easier to get done than people think. The biggest problems I see are people wait too long or they try and do it themselves. There are no second chances.
If you're underwater in your house, call the experts.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Going from hourly to salary seemed like a good career move, but now you're working 60 hours a week instead of 40, and you aren't getting paid any of that extra time. You're stuck, right? Wrong. You can be on salary and still be entitled to overtime. If you've been wrongly denied such pay, you may be entitled to that and more. Gold Star Law is here to help you through your employment law problem, whatever it is.
Gold Star Law, protecting employees' rights. Call 1-800-WAGES-10 for a free consultation today.
All right, welcome back. All right, before we get back to what do you do about this insane statute, let's do the quote of the segment. All right, are you guys ready?
Is this a new
You
standard
asked
thing?
me for multiple choice. I'm giving you multiple choice. All right, here it is. I am extraordinarily patient, provided I get my own way in the end. Option A, Newt Gingrich. Option B, Joseph Stalin. Option 3, Margaret Thatcher.
What happened to option C?
Oh, A, B, C? Thank you. It's a trick question. It's a trick question. That's what it is. That's from my cousin Vinny. Brian, your guess?
Margaret
It's
Thatcher.
not Jeopardy. You don't get 10 seconds.
Margaret
All right.
Thatcher.
All right. Brian guesses Margaret Thatcher. Eric?
I'm going to say Newt Gingrich.
Newt Gingrich. David?
Margaret.
And the winner is Margaret Thatcher.
All right.
It's because the other two, you figure,
It
are
had a
such
little bit of
putzes that they would say something like that.
Absolutely.
So
it's actually the same logic
exactly
I came
what
up with.
happened. It's the putz question. What's the next one? Are we done with this?
Well, we can do one more, and then we'll save one for the third segment. You ready? Do you want to do one more? Are you guys excited for
Sure.
one more? Okay,
Look
one
at me.
more.
Reminds me of the bar exam, Ken.
Here you go. You ready? A conservative is a man with two perfectly good legs who, however, has never learned how to walk forward. Option A, Franklin Roosevelt. Option B, Winston Churchill. Option C, John Kennedy.
That sounds like something that Winston Churchill would have said.
I'm going to agree with Brian. Learn my lesson from last time and agree with Brian, Winston Churchill.
It's just so odd that I would agree with Brian for so many
You're
times.
all going with Churchill?
We may be wrong, but I think he's right.
Bzzz. You're all wrong.
Is it Kennedy?
All wrong.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Oh, man.
Oh, you're playing the leg game. That's ridiculous.
That's how it goes. I had to move them around as to which numbers so to try and trick you.
that's actually...
That
never mind.
All right, we'll
Oh,
come
you
back to
wouldn't
another
have
one.
picked two answers
All
the
right,
same
enough
letter?
enough with the quotes. Now let's get back to the topic.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about this 3206 law. So now we don't have the 32. You're facing foreclosure. You're behind on your mortgage in Michigan. You're not going to get the protections of 3205. When we had 3205, we would use it to obtain modifications. We also used it to buy time for a short sale. We'd request the meeting. We'd send the information. Then it would take a protracted amount of time to get these things sorted out because the lenders would be slow in processing the data. They would never be ready. And if I wanted to short sell a house and I wanted more time to find a buyer, I'd let the 3205 process play out so that we could get more time to find a buyer before the house went to sale at foreclosure.
So I'll give you an example, Ken. Right now, I've been working on a 3205 for a client. Our ultimate goal, we don't care what happens to the house. We just have been trying to buy time.
You don't want it to burn.
No, we don't want it to burn, but we haven't. If the client loses the house, the client loses the house. If he can modify the mortgage, he modifies the mortgage. Our end game is to stay in the house as long as humanly possible. And so far, we've been 17 months since the 3205.
So the plan's working.
And we haven't paid a nickel
So
on the
you're
house.
using the 3205 for delay.
Absolutely.
That was my third
Well, that's
one.
not what the 3205 process was designed for.
I understand, but you know what?
As an attorney, we utilize the tools within the confines of the law.
You're making a good point. It was a good law because it helped people get modifications. It was also a good tool that we as attorneys use to accomplish other objectives.
Well, we started off wanting to keep the house and modify
of looking
the mortgage.
out for our clients.
But
Yes.
because of time and constraints and things that happened, we were able to get into a different house, and now we're utilizing that house as a rental.
So, Ken, the old law that expired, did that say that you had to go through the entire mediation process, and this one is just a meeting? Is that
This one is just a meeting. All the new statute does is defer to the national program, which I'll get into it, and I'll explain to you the benefits that you can use under the national program. But the Michigan statute affords no protections. The old statute said you had to have a meeting, you had to evaluate the finances. If the finances were such that you should be given a modification, but the lender didn't want to give you one, they had to foreclose judicially, which was a long, lengthy process, rather than doing it through advertisement. We had several cases that went that way. We then defended the foreclosure, the judicial foreclosure, and obtained modifications during that process. There were a lot of opportunities to save homes by using this old statute, even when the person didn't meet the qualifications or the lender didn't want to provide the modification. The statute was helping people, and no one was objecting to it. The foreclosure attorneys acknowledged it was a good statute. The Real Estate Association all supported it. I am sure the banking lobby in some segment didn't want it. But you want to know the truth? I don't think this went down because someone hated the 3205 law. I think it went down because there's blatant level of incompetency among our state legislatures, and Republicans vote on a partisan basis, and if it's a banking thing, whatever the Democrats want, they don't want.
I disagree with you 100%.
I want to ask you.
Okay, well, at least we're not close.
Eric, here's a question for you. Being of the more youthful side of the group,
He's a youth.
What do you think about that? Do you think the Michigan legislature has any care for society at all? What's your opinion as the 30 crowd, so to speak, or under 30 crowd?
Well, I'm under 30. Let's
30.
get
When
that
he gets
straight.
30, he's going to get all depressed.
Yeah, let's keep one thing straight first.
25 crowd. Sorry.
They now have a 30 depression party that they go through when they turn 30.
Yeah, I'm having a quarter-life crisis, actually. I just had one. So, anyway, I think youths feel a little bit disenchanted with the way the government and the Michigan legislature has treated the financial crisis. You have to understand, we were in college when the financial crisis hit, and everyone now coming of age now is looking for homes and are looking to start a life. And
Look
what we
how
thought
hard
we
it was
would
to find a job as a young lawyer.
It was very difficult, and I'm very thankful for this
It's
job.
amazing we started out at $150,000 a year in this market.
Oh yeah, I wish. but you know, we what we thought was going to happen to us, what we were always told was going to happen, isn't necessarily the case right now.
Wait till you get married.
Yeah, well,
no, good point. I think there's a lot of disenchantment there. Why do you disagree with 100%? And then I want to get to what we need to do to solve the problem.
Maybe 1,000%.
Tell
you
me
think that they were
10 seconds.
incompetent and they didn't know what they're doing? They were insane. I think now that you've explained what the law is, it's absolutely crystal clear to me what happened. They did not extend the law at all. All that the 3206 does is it adopts the national mortgage settlement for the 5 banks that they're already subject to.
True.
And they terminated the law for everybody else. All they did was adopt the settlement. That's what happened.
They took it back to
but you're not going to
pre-financial crisis.
You're not going to what I was arguing about was why. Why would they do that? It was what I was saying is it's insane to do that. It makes no sense when something was helping people. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to figure out what do you do about it now, because we got to go forward.
You like your job. What you don't like is the way your boss has been treating you. He's making comments about how you look instead of your work, and he's been touching you inappropriately. If you complain, is he allowed to fire you? Absolutely not. Unwelcome sexual comments, advances, and contact are illegal in the workplace. Make him pay. Gold Star Law is here to help you through your employment law problem, whatever it is.
Gold Star Law, protecting employees' rights. Call 1-800-WAGES-10 for a free consultation today.
Do you have tax problems, unfiled returns? Facing levies on wages in your property? You need an expert, not a cartoon character or salesman. Thav Gross is your solution.
You need to look at the big picture. That's what we do. We develop a plan that's right for you.
I had major tax problems. I didn't know what to do.
We did. We sat down together and solved your tax problem.
No more letters, no more phone calls. They saved me.
Call Thav Gross, 888-235-HELP.
Every family has the family meeting, and we all know what that means. Dad's got dementia. What are we going to do? What's the care plan that the family has in place? Usually they don't, or they struggle with a care plan. When you go home tonight and you talk to your tax person and you talk to your financial person, say, what's the plan that you have in place? And as soon as they don't give you an answer, give me a call, because I can do it for you.
Double Action, shooting center and gun shop for the largest selection of guns, accessories, and ammunition. Double Action is your only pro gun shop. And now you can train with the best in our basic CCW course with the most comprehensive curriculum, the best resources, and most accomplished staff. Don't be fooled by cheap imitations. Double Action is the only place to get your CCW or renewal. Double Action. We're on DeQuinder and Madison Heights.
All right, welcome back. All right, we're talking about the new situation in foreclosure in Michigan because the old 3205 law expired on January 9th, and now we have a new law on 3206, and it's a question of what to do. Let's thank our sponsors, give some announcements, and then we're going to focus the rest of the segment on what do you do in that situation. Seminars coming up. You want to check our website. You can sign up for the seminar on our website, thavgross.com, fctalkcenter.com. You just fill out the form, tickets print out, and then we mail tickets to you as well. It's a good opportunity. Take a look at the websites to do that. The analyzer is there. It's free. And also, we encourage you to become a Financial Crisis Talk Center member. You do so. We never share your data with anyone. We don't give out email addresses. We don't sell them. We don't do anything with them. But you get on our list. We send updates on financial crisis events, seminar information, anything relating to the show. We send out at least an email a week typically. Thank our sponsors, Ben Johnson Law, Gold Star Law, Samasco Law, Double Action Shooting Range and Gun Shop, Spine Specialists in Michigan, Alan Stalter, Elite REO Services, Short Sales Specialist, and our upcoming new sponsor, Cardiology Associates of Michigan, and also a quick little shout out to our gift certificate sponsors, Johnny Pomodoros and Detroit Popcorn. All right, so the 3206 law is what we now have, and it's just like you said, David, before the break, all they did is adopt the federal format, which to me is ridiculous when the old law worked. But we need some bullet points. What should you do if you're now facing foreclosure? Number one, it's essential if you're with one of the 5 big lenders that you apply for a modification.
So that's the fork in the road. Can you get the meeting or not get the meeting?
Correct. And if you should apply for that, if you're behind, you need to be proactive. If you're one of the 5 big lenders, you're going to get that letter. So then you've got to respond within the 30 days.
Open your mail.
If you do that and you respond, at least you then have a shot at modifying. You might be able to talk your way into a short sale and allow the lender to hold off on the foreclosure sale or delay the process if you have that modification in process. If you're not with one of the big 5 lenders, you're not going to get the 30-day letter. You're not going to get the 3205 letter anymore. What do? Well, my advice is, first of all, doing this on your own is great if you are well-versed in all the ways in which you can get a loan modification, if you understand the law, if you know how to deal with a lender that doesn't do its job, go ahead, do it on your own. If you want to succeed, you need someone who knows what they're doing. Frankly, I think you need us, but there are probably at least 1 or 2 other attorneys somewhere in the state of Michigan that know what they're doing, and you could use them. I'm being facetious, but I'm trying to make the point is you need help, and you should avail yourself of help. If you're not with those 5 lenders and you're behind, I would get a modification application into that lender before it gets to the law firm to foreclose. Because once that foreclosure process starts, it ain't going to stop. It's not going to stop because there's no letter that you're going to get. There's no Michigan statute that's going to help you because our Michigan legislature doesn't want to help you.
Brian, also explain.
I want to repeat that. Our Michigan legislature does not want to help you.
Brian, also
remember
explain,
that when you vote next time.
Explain. This is just one aspect of what we believe financial crisis management is. You have to have a global understanding, and I want you to explain that as far as from the different facets and the tools.
We're running short of time on the segment, so in your explanation, which you're going to have 3 minutes, I want you to talk about Chapter 13 as well, because that's how.
All right. Well,
that's
here's the
another way
bottom
to
line.
stop that foreclosure.
Just because the statute is going away doesn't mean that you don't have the right to modify your mortgage. It doesn't mean that you don't have the right to cure and catch yourself up on your house. There's different ways to do that. If you can't get a modification and you're facing a foreclosure and that notice has been posted on your door and it's going to come sooner now because you don't have the 3205 option available to you, Chapter 13 is an available methodology to A, restructure and catch yourself up on your house. At the same time, if you are underwater on your first mortgage, allowing you to strip off a second mortgage. There are so many options inside of Chapter 13. I could talk for an hour.
A little bit, because we've got a little bit more time, because I know I rushed you.
But wait,
in Chapter 13, you must file that Chapter 13
before the sheriff's sale.
Okay, and if you wait till the sheriff's sale?
If you wait until the sheriff's sale is come and gone, you are in trouble. You lost your house.
Too late, sorry, Charlie.
You
so
better
that's the first
redeem.
thing. If you're listening or watching the show, you need to know if you're facing foreclosure, you're going to need to file the 13 before the sale.
But
now,
there's an exciting opportunity that's just come about, and it's coming about in Chapter 13, at least in the Detroit metropolitan area. We are adding a judge-based facilitation for mediation and modification of your mortgages. This will be coming in the next 2-3 months, where the court will be involved in the modification process.
All right, so to say it another way, the state has abandoned you, but believe it or not, the federal bankruptcy court and the trustee's office is coming to your rescue.
The Eastern District of Michigan has
kudos
started
to them.
has
That's
taken this up.
That's a good thing.
And modification is possible inside of Chapter 13. You just have to do something to stop the foreclosure.
You also have a Chapter 7. You have all.
There are
types of different.
bankruptcy, a traditional bankruptcy, debt elimination. If you decide that you need to walk away from your house, a Chapter 7 is possibly a good choice to avoid those deficiency balances and have creditors forgive debt, which becomes a taxable event. There are so many options that are available. What has to happen is the analysis.
In fact, I'm going to put up on a slide, if you're watching this show, kind of a list of some of the options, because we're running out of time on the segment. But the biggest bottom line point to know is this law has changed. The 3205 is gone. 3206 is only going to help you if you're one of the 5 lenders. You need to be more proactive to take steps. If you don't take the steps and you get that foreclosure notice, your only way of saving the home is to file a Chapter 13 before the sale.
And make sure you understand you have 5 years to catch yourself up in Chapter 13, not the 3 weeks the bank wants to give
and
you.
It's not and then even in the 13, you have an opportunity to modify the mortgage then. So you're not out of remedies. What the Michigan legislature did was not a good thing. They should be punished. They should, no soup for them. We'll be back with the next session in the next segment of the Financial Crisis Talk Center. Thanks for listening.